Topic number 2 is a good one. We were just talking about it a little bit before, and this one is called Hands Off Max. Get your hands off my wing, Max Verstappen. Or as Toto would say, you never touch my wing ever again. And we all know we're talking about Max Verstappen under parc ferme conditions, going over and wiggling the wing, touching the wing, whatever you want to call it, of his number one contender, his number one title contender, Lewis Hamilton. It just looked fishy across the board.
Yeah, I would say it definitely looks fishy. I mean, anytime you see a driver touch another driver's car, that's the first thing you think of. What's this driver trying to pull here, kind of skirting the rules? From what we, talked about before the show, and from what we've read, this does happen. Like, drivers do go around and kind of feel out some of the other cars. It's not necessarily, excuse me, it's not necessarily, a strict rule breaker, but it is against the rules. But, the stewards and the FIA have all kind of just relaxed on that. So Verstappen wasn't doing anything that necessarily some other drivers do. But when you watch him do it, you're like, you just think, I think maybe because like the way Verstappen is too, you kind of think he's doing something fishy. That's just kind of the way that he looks sometimes, and especially because it's Lewis Hamilton and how close they are in the standings, you think he's up to no good. You think he's doing something screwy. So I don't know, from what the steward said, where he was touching the wing had something to do with it, and also, how much force he was putting down when he was touching the wing. If he had really tried to move the wing, that would have been a different story. He was almost kind of just more just like feeling it a little bit, and it wasn't in near the actuator. It wasn't at the end fixation points. It wasn't in those areas. So that's why I think they only gave the 50,000. Is it pounds or dollars? I don't know. Who cares? Verstappen's a millionaire. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
The fine, the monetary fine, is not like he got a grid penalty. So I think that's why they did that. But certainly it just seems like there needs to be stricter rules in this with this type of infraction. But like I said, you watch Verstappen do it, and you're like, dude, you're just like a pain in the ass. Come on, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, what makes you think you can go over and touch your number one contender's car after he just beat you in qualifying? Like, I don't understand what was even going through his head at that point. I think if he was on the radio and said he was going to do it, the team would have been like, don't do that, man. Like, that's just not smart. I think he thought, obviously, like you said, in the past, the rules been pretty relaxed. They haven't really penalized anybody. But guess what? The championship fight has never been this close in F1, unless we're going back to the 80s when we're talking about Senna and Prost. That's a long time ago. So that's why these rules have kind of got relaxed over the years, because even Red Bull said it. The championship has normally been over right now at this point over the last 7 years. Mercedes had already wrapped it up. But here, it's one of the tightest championship battles, and you're going over and touching your contender's wing with just a few races left. I just don't think it's smart at all, and I don't think the penalty was very fitting. And like we said, this is definitely illegal. Now they said they're going to crack down on it a lot more. That's a great meme over there. That's basically what I think he was doing to the wing back there, man, playing bongos on that thing. But they definitely said they're going to come out and crack down on this rule more. And I think this fine sends that message that going forward, don't go around touching people's cars. There were some great messages that came through on the radio too after the sprint race too, which Bono came on and told Lewis, said, hey, don't go and touch or look at anybody else's car. We all knew what that was in reference to. And then Sebastian Vettel, who I'm going to reference him again, but Sebastian Vettel came on and said, I think I'm going to go touch Lewis's rear wing. And his engineer said, don't do that. That's expensive. And he said, well, maybe I'll just go try the front wing. That'll only be 25 grand. So Sebastian Vettel making a lot of jokes. But the reason that the rules have been so relaxed over these years, touching other people's cars, is because of Sebastian Vettel. He's been the number one driver doing it over these last 10 years. He's even got the nickname Inspector Seb, because he goes around looking at a lot of people's cars and seeing what they can do better to just his car. Very smart thing to do. But here's the thing. The majority of the time that Inspector Seb was doing that, it was hands off. He was mainly looking. There was only 2 times. One time where he rolled the Mercedes with his foot. He rolled the tire to kind of see how the car would roll. And then there was another time where I believe he had stuck his head in the cockpit a little bit. Other than that, he is mainly hands off. So that's where it's a big difference there. And I've been comparing it to the Gentleman's Club. We all know it's look but don't touch. Look but don't touch, Max Verstappen. So he's now going to pay the penalty for it of $50,000, euros, whatever you want. But when you're talking about a millionaire, you know what I mean? Like, that's such a small percentage for him to pay. Really don't think it was a penalty. If you really wanted to be strict and send the message of drivers not to do that going forward, you give him a 5-place grid penalty, and then that sends the message to him and to every other driver to not ever touch another contender's car. So that's what my opinion is on this topic.
Right. I guess it depends on which gentleman's club you go to, right? I mean, the rules are different everywhere, just like they are with the different stewards. Yeah, the rules just seem to be kind of all over the place, and that depends on the FIA and the stewards, and that's going to be our next topic. So, folks, that's going to do it for topic number 2. Moving on now to topic number 3, we're sticking with